Exodus chapter 9. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Go in to Pharaoh and tell him, 'This is what the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, says: Let my people go so that they may worship me. But if you refuse to let them go and keep holding them, then the Lord's hand will bring a severe plague against your livestock in the field, the horses, donkeys, camels, herds, and flocks. But the Lord will make a distinction between the livestock of Israel and the livestock of Egypt, and nothing belonging to the Israelites will die.' The Lord set a time, saying, 'Tomorrow the Lord will do this thing in the land.' The next day the Lord did this. All the Egyptian livestock died, but none of the Israelites' livestock died. Pharaoh sent for the livestock and found that not a single one of the Israelites' livestock was dead. But Pharaoh's heart was hard, and he did not let the people go. Then the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, 'Take handfuls of soot from a kiln and have Moses throw it toward heaven in the sight of Pharaoh. It will become fine dust over the whole land of Egypt, and it will become festering boils on people and animals throughout the land of Egypt.' So they took soot from the kiln and stood before Pharaoh. Moses threw it toward heaven, and it became festering boils on people and animals. The magicians could not stand before Moses because of the boils, for the boils were on the magicians as well as on all the Egyptians. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not listen to them, just as the Lord had said to Moses. Then the Lord said to Moses, 'Get up early in the morning and present yourself to Pharaoh. Tell him, "This is what the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, says: Let my people go so that they may worship me. For this time I am about to send all my plagues against you, your officials, and your people, so you may know that there is no one like me in the whole earth. For by now I could have stretched out my hand and struck you and your people with pestilence, and you would have been cut off from the earth. But this is why I have let you live, to show my power and to make my name known throughout the earth. You are still exalting yourself against my people by not letting them go. Tomorrow at this time, I will cause the heaviest hail to fall that has ever occurred in Egypt from the day it was founded until now. Therefore, get your livestock and all that you have in the open into safe shelter. For every person or animal that is in the open field and is not brought inside will die when the hail falls on them.' Those officials of Pharaoh who feared the word of the Lord hurried to bring their slaves and livestock inside. But those who did not regard the word of the Lord left their slaves and livestock in the field. The Lord said to Moses, 'Stretch out your hand toward heaven so that hail may fall on the whole land of Egypt, on humans and animals and all the plants of the field in the land of Egypt.' Then Moses stretched out his staff toward heaven, and the Lord sent thunder and hail, and fire ran down to the earth, and the Lord rained hail on the land of Egypt. The hail was very heavy. Fire was flashing continually in the midst of the hail. Such heavy hail had never fallen in all the land of Egypt since it became a nation. The hail struck down everything that was in the open field throughout all the land of Egypt, both humans and animals. The hail also struck down all the plants of the field and shattered every tree in the field. Only in the land of Goshen, where the Israelites were, there was no hail. Then Pharaoh sent and called Moses and Aaron and said to them, 'I have sinned this time. The Lord is in the right, and I and my people are in the wrong. Pray to the Lord. There has been enough of God's thunder and hail. I will let you go, and you will stay no longer.' Moses replied, 'When I have gone out of the city, I will spread my hands in prayer to the Lord. The thunder will stop, and there will be no more hail, so you may know that the earth is the Lord's. But I know that you and your officials still do not fear the Lord God.' The flax and barley were destroyed, since the barley had headed and the flax was in bloom. The wheat and spelt, however, were not destroyed because they ripened later. Then Moses left Pharaoh and went out of the city. He spread out his hands toward the Lord. The thunder and hail stopped. and rain no longer poured down on the land. When Pharaoh saw that the rain and hail and thunder had stopped, he sinned again. He and his officials hardened their hearts. So Pharaoh's heart was hard, and he would not let the Israelites go, just as the Lord had said through Moses. Exodus chapter 10. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Go into Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the hearts of his officials, so that I may display these signs of mine among them, and so you may tell your children and grandchildren about how I dealt harshly with the Egyptians and about the signs I performed among them, and you will know that I am the Lord." So Moses and Aaron went in to Pharaoh and told him, "This is what the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, says. How long will you refuse to humble yourself before me? Let my people go so that they may worship me. But if you refuse to let my people go, then tomorrow I will bring locusts into your territory. They will cover the surface of the land so that no one will be able to see the land. They will eat the remainder of what escaped, what is left to you from the hail. They will eat every tree you have growing in the field. They will fill your houses, all your officials' houses, and the houses of all the Egyptians, something your fathers and ancestors never saw since the day they occupied the land until today." Then he turned and left Pharaoh. Pharaoh's officials asked him, "How long must this man be a snare to us? Let the men go so that they may worship the Lord their God. Don't you realize yet that Egypt is devastated?" So Moses and Aaron were brought back to Pharaoh. "Go, worship the Lord your God," Pharaoh said. "But exactly who will be going?" Moses replied, "We will go with our young and our old. We will go with our sons and our daughters, with our flocks and herds, because we must hold the Lord's festival." He said to them, "The Lord would have to be with you if I would let you and your families go. Look out, you're headed for trouble. No, go, you who are men, and worship the Lord, for that is what you asked." And they were driven from Pharaoh's presence. The Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the land of Egypt for the locusts, so that they may come up against the land of Egypt and eat every plant in the land, all that the hail has left." So Moses stretched out his staff over the land of Egypt, and the Lord brought an east wind upon the land all that day and all night. When morning came, the east wind had brought the locusts. The locusts came upon all the land of Egypt and settled on the whole country of Egypt. They were very numerous. Never before had there been so many locusts, nor will there be so many again. They covered the surface of the whole land, so that the land was darkened, and they ate all the plants in the land and all the fruit of the trees that the hail had left. Nothing green was left, no tree, no plant in the field, in all the land of Egypt. Pharaoh hurriedly summoned Moses and Aaron and said, "I have sinned against the Lord your God and against you. Forgive my sin just this once, and pray to the Lord your God that he will remove this death from me." So Moses went out from Pharaoh and prayed to the Lord. And the Lord changed the wind to a very strong west wind, which lifted the locusts and drove them into the Red Sea. Not a single locust was left in all the territory of Egypt. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not let the Israelites go. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your hand toward heaven, so that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, a darkness that can be felt." So Moses stretched out his hand toward heaven, and there was a thick darkness in all the land of Egypt for 3 days. People could not see one another, and for 3 days they could not move from where they were. But all the Israelites had light where they lived. Then Pharaoh summoned Moses and said, "Go, worship the Lord. Only your flocks and your herds shall remain behind. Even your children may go with you." Moses said, "You must allow us to have the sacrifices and burnt offerings to present to the Lord our God. Our livestock too must go with us. Not a hoof is to be left behind. We have to use some of them in worshiping the Lord our God, and until we get there, we will not know what we are to use to worship the Lord." But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he was not willing to let them go. Pharaoh said to Moses, "Get out of my sight. Make sure you do not appear before me again. The day you see my face, you will die." "Just as you say," Moses replied, "I will never appear before you again." Matthew chapter 18. At that time, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" He called a child and had him stand among them. "Truly, I tell you," he said, "unless you turn and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, who humbles himself like this child, this one is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And whoever welcomes one child like this in my name welcomes me. But whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to fall away, it would be better for him if a heavy millstone were hung around his neck and he were drowned in the depths of the sea. Woe to the world because of offenses, for offenses will inevitably come, but woe to that person by whom the offense comes. If your hand or your foot causes you to fall away, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to enter life maimed or lame than to have 2 hands or 2 feet and be thrown into the eternal fire. And if your eye causes you to fall away, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to enter life with 1 eye than to have 2 eyes and be thrown into hellfire. See to it that you don't despise one of these little ones, because I tell you that in heaven their angels continually view the face of my Father in heaven. For the Son of Man has come to save the lost. What do you think? If someone has 100 sheep, and one of them go astray, won't he leave the 99 on the hillside and go search for the stray? And if he finds it, truly I tell you, he rejoices over that sheep more than over the 99 that did not go astray. In the same way, it is not the will of your Father in heaven that one of these little ones perish. If another member of the church sins against you, go and point out the fault when the 2 of you are alone. If the member listens to you, you have regained that one. But if you are not listened to, take 1 or 2 others along with you, so that every word may be confirmed by the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses. If the member refuses to listen to them, tell it to the church. And if the offender refuses to listen even to the church, let such a one be to you as a Gentile and a tax collector. Truly, I tell you, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Again, truly, I tell, if 2 of you agree on earth about anything you ask, it will be done for you by my Father in heaven. For where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I am there among them.